What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and well, stuff is really hitting the fan. Take a look here at what we're going to cover here in this video for you guys. Yeah, Russian TV, which is basically state-owned, state-controlled, suggests missile strikes on 4 NATO countries. And remember, this would lead to World War III. You attack any NATO country, and it's a declaration of war against all NATO countries, the United States, and all. I will let you see the actual video clip here in this video. Yeah, this is when you know things are getting really, really bad here, guys. I mean, a lot of people think that we are already in World War III. We're at the beginning stages of World War III, and the start and the escalation here was the start of the Ukraine-Russia war, and things are getting worse and worse here as the months go on. And things are escalating here, and now we're seeing North Korea get involved here with Russia. And we're now seeing this Russia and North Korea deal where basically North Korea is coming in here. If you watched my previous video, I'll link you to that video here afterwards. But Russia is now saying that maybe North Korea will volunteer soldiers to come into the war for Ukraine and North Korea. Now, you'll have to go watch that video. But this is getting wild here. So now North Korea might be entering the war with actual boots on the ground. So just kind of think about this. And we've already had Russia's previous president, Dmitry Medvedev, who was the president in between the terms of Putin. Some people say he's actually worse than Putin. Medvedev has actually said that this war could last for decades. For decades. And Kim Jong-un is maybe even more off the wire, off the hook than Putin is. Yeah. Yeah. What happens if Russia buys arms from North Korea? If Russia trades nuclear weapons with North Korea? This is all the beginnings of what is starting to transpire now. We also just seen the revealing of Russia's new missile sub. Looks kind of shoddy. A lot of things from North Korea do. But the US and its allies can't afford to ignore it. You can see, and remember, North Korea is just kind of a little bit out there. Kind of reminds me of Kramer from Seinfeld, if you watch that, with this, hand gesture there. North Korea unveils its first tactical nuclear-armed submarine. Yeah, North Korea has launched its first operational tactical nuclear attack submarine and assigned it to a fleet that patrols the water between the Korean Peninsula and Japan, their state media said. And it will be on the main underwater offensive main of naval force. Wow. Quote, this is really just a way of having another mobile missile launcher that it can, and in this case, go underwater and be hard to find. A former U.S. Navy officer and defense expert at the Hudson Institute said, which is not much different than what the North Koreans already do with their mobile missile launchers that hide in caves. Yeah, you guys kind of let me know your thoughts here on this. Quote, it's kind of shoddy like many of the early versions of ballistic missile submarines that any national has put out. In most cases, missile tubes are essentially strapped or bolted onto the vessel, with the main goal really being to see if the initial sub can go underwater, but somewhat difficult to find and pose a threat to an enemy. More sophisticated designs tend to come later. Yeah, and now we got Russian TV suggesting that they should strike four different NATO countries. And remember, the Russian TV is saying this. This is a state sponsored TV station. And they're also saying this to millions and millions of Russians that get to hear this on a daily basis. And not just Russians, but the rest of the world too, because we're getting to hear this and the whole world gets to hear this. So, US government gets to hear this, UK government gets to hear this, NATO countries get to hear this. Here is what Russian TV is saying. And then you can let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.
По Киеву, по Одессе. А отвечать надо по Берлину, по Лондону, по Вашингтону, по Нью-Йорку. По местам скопления не людей, а по административным зданиям, по месту, где принимаются эти решения, и по местам нахождения военных объектов. Надо наносить удар по Польше, по базе, куда все приходит. Надо наносить удар по заводам, которые это производят.
Yeah, so just to do this again, it says their main task is to cause maximum damage to the Russian Federation. Yes, we can respond by hitting Kiev and Odessa, but we need to respond by hitting Berlin, London, Washington, New York, places where non humans gather, administrative buildings, places where these decisions are made, and military facilities. Yeah, so they're talking about hitting London, Washington, D.C., New York, Berlin, and wow, we must also strike Poland, the base where all this stuff arrives. We must strike the factories that produce it. This would be World War III and a massive, massive World War III. Unbelievable. And just remember that they're talking about this on their national TV stations to millions of Russians. And they're also sending this message out to the rest of the world. This is what they're saying out in mass to the United Americans are seeing this. Europeans are seeing this. Russians are seeing this. This is what they're actively telling people on a large scale basis. You guys can let me know your thoughts on this, but the United States and NATO country need to be preparing for this. So we need to be having our defense systems on high alert. We need to be producing average, everyday, regular ammunition as well, and just be preparing for this stuff because now we hope that we don't get to a nuclear war because, I mean, Russia and the United States alone, Russia has like 6,000 nuclear bombs and we have like 5,500 or something. That alone is enough to end all humanity. So we obviously don't want to see something like that happen. And you would hope that both sides are smart enough to not get to that point. We need to have missile defense systems up and being, up to top condition, being refurbished, being worked on, all that stuff. Like when you have an enemy, Russia would be considered enemy number one, that's already engaged in a war and is saying stuff like this. It's very concerning to say the least. And honestly, I think that them invading Ukraine has taken a huge toll on their resources, on their army, and everything. I think at the beginning of the war, they thought they were going to just walk into Ukraine and take over the country. And here we are a year and a half later, they were not expecting this to happen. So it just did not work out the way Vladimir Putin expected. He expected it to go the way it went almost 10 years ago with Crimea, that they were just going to walk in there. Crimea was going to lay down their arms and they were just going to take it over. Take it over. And here we are, a year and a half later from the beginning of the Ukraine war. The world stepped in this time and said, you know what, we can't just let you take over country after country. We couldn't keep letting Hitler do it. And I mean, at some point, you can't keep negotiating with a terrorist and just letting a terrorist take over country after country after country. I mean, it didn't work out for Hitler. I mean, and honestly, Hitler had to be stopped at some point. I mean, let me know your thoughts here in the comments, but these are scary times. Let me know your thoughts. I'll keep you up to date. Please make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any new videos. Thanks for liking and sharing these videos. Click here to see the video I just did on Russia, what they're doing. They're actually recruiting children and saying they can interfere in the elections. It's absolutely wild. Click on this video next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video.